Just gonna start with an audio check. Alright, just waiting for my stream to turn on. Just gonna start with an audio check. Alright, so we're gonna be doing today is getting into GitHub. Because what I'm gonna kind of be doing from here is creating actual projects and files that can be shared. So the next thing to do on those tutorials is a project, and I'm gonna have that on GitHub. I'm gonna put that on GitHub. So what GitHub is a way to store code, basically, on a cloud server, on the internet. So when you have more than one programmer, they would use GitHub as a way to share that code onto one project that they're working on. So just kind of explaining what it is they call it a version control system. So I kind of explained this once before, but the purpose of a version control system is, imagine there's a couple of people working on, like let's say they're assigned an essay, and they're both working on it. Well, what could happen is if they're working separately, then they could make their own version of it, and things would start getting messed up, because then how would you know what is the latest version, and how would you know how to proceed? If someone makes like another version, or what one to go with. So that's kind of the issue you run into if you were trying to do that with code. So that's the purpose of having a version control system, is you can essentially have access to any version of your code at any stage. So the project could be at any stage, and you could revert back to it. So it's kind of like even if you have a Microsoft document, you can see that there's going to be a bunch of different versions you can revert to. It's a very similar thing. But this makes it so that you have access to any version that you're working on at any time, but any person, at any state. So that's kind of the purpose of it. And it kind of does it in a way where you don't really have that issue with messing up different versions, because you have access to all the versions, and then there'll be kind of a main decided, latest version that's already decided on. So that's kind of the purpose of a version control system. That's what GitHub is. Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to find out the best way to explain this. So what I'm gonna kind of be doing is whatever I actually do make, even if it's like a small project, I'm gonna try to put it on here. So there's a couple definitions. There's like I think when they talk about fork, the repo stands for repository. And whenever they're talking about forking right here, fork a repository, they kind of mean that another developer could kind of go on their own path, and it's like a fork in the road. So that's kind of what they mean by forking. But they have kind of a walkthrough, so I'm just gonna go through it. Quick start is start using GitHub to manage Git repositories and collaborate with others. Alright. Follow this hello world exercise to get started with GitHub. Alright. So, introduction. GitHub is a code host platform for version control and collaboration. It lets you and others work together on projects from anywhere. This tutorial teaches you GitHub essentials like repositories, branches, commits, and pull requests. You'll create your own Hello World repository and learn GitHub's pull request workflow, a popular way to create and review code. Alright, in this quick start guide, you will create and use a repository, start and manage a new branch, make changes to a file and push them to GitHub as commits, open and merge a pull request. To complete this tutorial, you need a GitHub account. Alright, so I already do have a personal one, and I have a MVCap code one, and internet access. We have that. You don't need to know how to code, use a command line, or Git. And that's kind of something in the future. Is going to be kind of a question about what is the difference between GitHub and Git. The best of my understanding, the difference between the two is Git is something you would download as a desktop program, and that's for your that's kind of more for your computer, where it's kind of more geared towards your computer, and then you have access to GitHub, but GitHub is the cloud. GitHub is the online database of all the code. So GitHub helps you manage that code on the machine level, on your local level, where GitHub is the cloud server version. So that's and they do connect to each other. But that's kind of another thing. But Git is something you install on your desktop computer or a laptop, just on your computer, and GitHub is something that is online. So, what's all Git? If you have a question about any of the expressions used in this guide, head over onto the glossary to find out more about our terminology. Yeah, one thing I'll probably will open up just to look at is the cheat sheet, because it'll show what we will end up knowing. I'm gonna get the English version. So these are things that we'll kind of know about. This is kind of like a I don't know why they don't have repository defined. But yeah, back to the tutorial. Creating a repository. A repository is usually used to organize a single project. Repositories can contain folders, files, images, videos, spreadsheets, and datasets. So basically, it's like, imagine you have like a school project in a folder on your computer, and this is kind of that version of that. So it's kind of the container of your version. It's the container of all your code and everything that comes with it, for that version, and that's what a repository is. yeah, anything your project needs. Often repositories include a README file, a file with information about your project. A README files are written in plain English, text, markup, markdown language. You can use this cheat sheet to get started with markdown syntax. Github lets you add a README file. At the same time, you create your new repository. Github also offers other common options such as license file, but you do not have to select any other form, any of them now. Your Hello World repository can be a place where you store ideas, resources, even share, discuss things with others. All right. In the upper right corner of any page, use the top drop-down menu and select New Repository. So we're going to create a repository. And we're going to call it Hello World. In the description box, write a short description. Add a README file. Select add a README file. Yeah, I mean, so I guess this is going to be a Hello World program. So I'll just say this is going to be a Hello World program. And Hello World usually means it's like the first program when they start with any programming language. Basically, whenever there's a tutorial on a programming language, the first thing people do is they make it so that in some way you can write Hello World, and that's kind of the reason. So basically, this means like the most simple program possible. This is going to be a Hello World program on GitHub. Select add a README file. Select whether your repository is public or private. I'll make it public. Then click repository. Oh, create repository. Alright. Yeah, so I think that's it. So creating repository. So now it says creating a branch. Branching lets you have different versions of a repository at one time. By default, your repository has one branch named main that is considered to be the definitive branch. You can create additional branches off of main in your repository. You can use branches to have different versions of a project at one time. That's helpful when you want to add new features on a project without changing the main code, the main source of code. The work done on different branches will not show up on the main branch until you merge it, which we'll cover later in the guide. You can use branches to experiment and make edits before committing them to main. Alright. When you create a branch off the main branch, you're making a snapshot of main as it was that point in time. If someone else made changes to the main branch while you were working on the branch, you could pull in those updates. So it's kind of like, imagine the scenario where you have a group of people working on an essay. You have to have a decided main version kind of that is going to be the updated version. So let's say we had two different students and they worked on their own version, but you decided to pick one version because it was better than the other version. and that's the version you're going to decide on. So that's kind of what they mean by the main version. So you have kind of a diagram here. The main branch, then create feature, branch from main. So it's going to be another branch. Then it goes back into the main. So it's kind of like trying to think of something to compare it to. But yeah, so you basically have the project at this point, and then you go on your own path, and then you submit back into your changes. Have you ever saved different versions of a file? Something like so. Yeah, so I think they're going back to the different versions of a file. Like it could be anything, like an essay. Branches accomplish similar goals in GitHub repositories. Here at Github, developers, writers use branches to keep bug fixes, looking for bug fixes and feature work separate from our main production branch. When a change is ready, they merge their branch into main. So it's kind of like, let's say there's something wrong with the program. All this is kind of saying is, if there's something wrong with the program, you can kind of isolate the problem with whatever version it's in. So maybe it's just one version where the code stopped working, and then you can kind of figure that out without that affecting the entire program. So now it looks like we're going to create a branch. Click the code tab of your Hello World repository. So I think that's this. Drop down, click the drop down menu at the top of the file list that says main. Oh, right here. And type of branch name, readme edits. So we're going to copy that. And then it wants us to create it. Alright, so we just created a branch. We just created a branch. So now I have two branches, the main one and the readme edits, making and committing changes. When you created a new branch in the previous step, GitHub brought you to the code page for your new readme edits branch, which is a copy of main. You can make and save changes to the file in your repository on GitHub. Saved changes are called commits. Each commit has an associated commit message, which is a description explaining why a particular change was made. Commit messages capture the history of your changes so that other contributors can understand what you've done and why. Under the readme edits branch you created, click the readme.md file. Do they want me to click on it? Alright, so now we're editing it. In the editor, write a bit about yourself. Try using different markdown elements. So I don't actually know too much about that, honestly, so I can't get into what that is. Okay, so then it looks like we're gonna... So it wants me to rate about myself, I guess. I don't know. Say my name is Ryan, and I am coding this program. So I'll say. And I think that's it. Oh, I didn't make a commit message. This one will have a name. So now I think it'll go to the latest version. Alright, so we did it. So that's this. So these changes will be made only to the README file in your README edits branch. So this branch contains content that's different from main. Okay, so I think what they're saying is now we're in the README edits branch. We're on a whole separate branch. Where if we go to main, the README for that is just should just be hello world. So if we go look at it, it doesn't have all of what we wrote there. It doesn't have all of that extra stuff. It's just the same README file. But if we go to the branch, README edits, then we have the edited version. Then we have our own version. Then we can basically go along this path of continuing to build the program, and that's kind of the use in branches. You can kind of build on progress, but then if something does go wrong, you can isolate it and use the correct version to move forward. Alright, so this next one is opening our pull request. Now that you have changes in a branch off of main, you can open a pull request. Pull requests are the heart of collaboration on GitHub. When you open a pull request, you're proposing your changes and requesting that someone review and pull in your contribution and merge them into their branch. Pull requests show differences of the content of both branches. The changes, additions, subtractions are shown in different colors. Alright, as soon as you make a commit, you can open a pull request and start a discussion even before the code is finished. By using GitHub's mention feature in the pull request message, you can ask for feedback from specific people or names or teams. So it's kind of like this will be a username, I guess. Whether they're down the hall or 10 time zones away, so anyone can access it. You can even open pull requests in your own repository and merge them yourself. It's a great way to learn to get a flow before working on a larger project. So now we're going to create a pull request. Click the pull request tabs of your Hello World repository. Alright, so now we're here. Click New Pull Request. In the example comparisons box, example comparisons, that's right here. Select the branch you made, readme edits, to compare with main, the original, okay? Look over your changes in the diffs on the compare page. Is this the diffs? Oh, display the source diffs. Okay, so that's here. So I think there's either this way to display it or this way. And click Create Pull Request. Just gotta check if my audio's on. Yep. Alright. Give your pull request a title and a brief description of your changes. You can include emojis and drag and drop images and GIFs. Alright. Optionally, to the right of the title description, click. Alright, so we're just gonna do that. I'll just call that pull request. This is a pull request. Optionally to the right of the title and description. Yeah, actually, so I didn't do that, so we'll just move on. Click create pull request. So yeah, so we've done the pull request. In this final step, you will merge your README edits branch into the main branch. After you merge your pull request, the changes on your README edits branch will be incorporated into the main. So it's kind of like, alright, so what this is gonna do is it's kind of like with the essay analogy. It's like you need to decide what is going to be the version moving forward. What is going to be the main version? So let's say we want to add our changes and make that the main version moving forward. That's what we're going to do. Is we merge that with the pull request. We merge that with the main. We make that one the one that we're going to use. Sometimes a pull request may introduce changes to code that conflict with the existing code on the main. If there are any conflicts, Github will alert you about the conflicting code and prevent merging until the conflicts are resolved. You can make a commit that resolves the conflicts or use comments in the pull request to discuss the conflicts with your team members. In this walkthrough, you should not have any conflicts, so when you are ready to merge your branch into the main branch. Alright, so let's just merge it. So I think we did it. So now that your pull request is merged with your changes and it's on main, you can safely delete the branch. If you want to make more changes to your project, you can always create a new branch and repeat this process. Okay, so I think we're getting somewhere. But before that, actually let's just delete the branch. So now we deleted the branch because you don't need the branch anymore. But let's just get back into the code. So now this is not the branch anymore because we don't have that branch. Now this is the main. This is the main version. And now we have the edits from that branch onto this. So this might seem like a very simple analogy, but this is going to be very important because this is how if you're going to make a very complex program, how it's going to be, how you collaborate on programs in general. Alright, so next steps. By completing this tutorial, you'll learn to create a project and make a pull request on GitHub. Here's what you accomplished in this tutorial. Created an open source repository, so that's what we did. Started and managed a new branch, and we kind of learned the purpose of a branch, and then changed the file and committed those changes to GitHub. So now we kind of see how it works. We kind of see the flow of GitHub and how it works. Opened and merged a pull request. So we made the pull request, and then we merged it. Take a look at your GitHub profile and see your work reflected on the contributions graph. So that's what they're referring to, contributions graph. So I guess it says like it says all of the activity, everything you've ever done, every edit, everything. Alright, so I'm trying to think if we should do this today also. Yeah, so I think I'll actually end it off here, and then I'm gonna pick up here next time, and just try to get through as much GitHub as possible before then going back to web development, where gonna create some projects, and then yeah, that's gonna be it.